Believe it or not, very few people knew who Jim Barber was when he was a teenager. He was quiet and unassuming, and he went to great lengths to blend in with the crowd. But that began to change when Jim learned some valuable lessons from the wild thing. Please help me welcome ATM Gold, Jim Barber.
Yay! The year was 1969. I was a junior in high school, and as Nick indicated, I was rather quiet, shy. People knew me, but they really didn't know me. And something came up. It was time, as I say, junior year. We were going to have elections. We were going to elect officers, class officers for our senior year. I had a friend, Jack, who was also rather shy and retiring like me. Basically, you had the in crowd. You know the in crowd? We weren't in it. We weren't in the in crowd. Everybody, the cool kids were. We weren't. But Jack decided, I don't know why, but Jack decided he wanted to be sergeant at arms for our senior year. And he asked me if I would be his campaign manager. Now, I knew nothing about running a campaign, and nothing about it. But he said he wanted to do it. I knew he wasn't going to get elected. He knew he wasn't going to get elected. What did we have to lose? I said, okay, I'll give it a try. The central part of the campaign was a school assembly where all the kids in the school came together in one auditorium, and the candidates for the different offices got up, they were introduced by their campaign manager, and they gave a 2-minute, good Toastmaster style, a 2-minute speech on their qualifications of why they should be elected to that office. Boring. Incredibly boring. So I told Jack, we're not going to win. So at least let's have some fun. Let's do something different. Now, as I say, it was 1969. AZ could tell you that one of the hit songs in 1969 was Wild Thing. I don't remember the band.
Trods.
Who?
The Trods.
The Trod, that's right. Yeah, the Trods. Did it? I think, as I recall, I think the song had 3 chords in it. That was it. But it was Wild Thing. And the other thing, I hadn't mentioned this before, but my friend Jack, his last name was, believe it or not, Savage. A great comic book name, Jack Savage, but that was his name. So I said, oh, gotta make use of that. Sergeant at Arms, Jack Savage, and the hit song was Wild Thing. So I told Jack, what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce you, but before I get done with my introduction, I'm going to have a crowd of students dressed in hippie attire coming out and protesting against something. And what I want you to do to demonstrate that you would be a great sergeant at arms is for you to stand up and command them to go off the stage. And Jack said, okay, that sounds like cool. I think that'll be fun. So I lined up 6 students, all the friends I could finagle into doing it. The 6 kids dressed up in hippie gear, and they were ready, and we were going through the school assembly, one candidate after another, standing up, giving their boring 2-minute speech. Everybody was falling asleep. It came our turn. I stood up in front of the group, and I said, it is my pleasure to introduce, and right on cue, this throng of 6 students dressed up, came out on the stage and started marching around, protesting something. But then, unfortunately, Jack forgot what he was supposed to do. He sat there watching the crowd of people marching around like everybody else was watching, except me. I was standing at the front, and of course my back turned to the crowd because I was talking to Jack, saying, "Get them off! Yeah, you! Get them off! Stand up, get them off!" Jack was sitting there, he was oblivious to the whole thing. Finally, it sunk in. Oh yeah. So Jack stood up and wonderfully, he commanded them to leave the stage and they walked off the stage. Very peaceful like. I finished my introduction. Please help me welcome your next Sergeant at Arms, Jack Savage. And Jack stood up, came to the lectern, but unfortunately, the 2 minutes had already been used up by all the people walking around because Jack hadn't done it in time. And the teacher was very strict about this, about people sitting down. The red light was showing. She was saying, "Get off the stage." So Jack simply went up to the microphone and said, "Please vote for me." And he sat down. The auditorium exploded. They thought that was the best campaign speech that anybody had ever given. And the next day, in the elections, over the in-crowd kid, the most popular kid in the school, one of the more popular kids in the school, Jack beat him to become the senior year Sergeant at Arms. And I learned several valuable lessons at that time. One, I learned the importance of marketing. Because Jack wasn't qualified. There was no way that the other kid wasn't either. But the whole thing got him elected was our stunt that we pulled on stage. Marketing pays off. And they'd never taught me that in school, but I learned that. But the other thing I learned was I got to thinking about it. And I had done all these things to get Jack elected. Why didn't I spend that effort getting me elected to some position? And at that point, I began to think, maybe I shouldn't just sit back and watch things going on. Maybe I should get out and promote myself a little more. And thus ended the shy, quiet realm of Jim Barber, as Jim Barber learned his lessons from the wild thing. Mr. Toastmaster.